Let's talk a little bit about the politicization that's been happening in the government since 2019. For those who follow the channel, we already suspected since last year that things would get worse, that the Brazilian government would do what it is already doing, what it has always done. If you look at the last 10 years, it's basically this. Simply take foreign laws, import them to Brazil, basically do a copy-paste, just copy and paste, without any analysis, without any changes. For those who follow more closely, for example, that website Vote na Web, you can see that there are a lot of little feminist laws that were already being imported ever since Dilma's first term, and during the second term as well. And incredibly, they still couldn't. They couldn't implement this during Dilma's government, but now they're managing to implement it under Bolsonaro's government. Just to show you how funny the cultural issue is, in this, you have to give Aldir some credit. The issue of relationships between the sexes isn't just about the laws. Culture plays a role too. Because it's the culture that allows increasingly worse laws to be implemented. It's also further proof that this whole right and left thing doesn't really work because both the right and the left have their own gynocentric side. The gynocentrism of the left is blatant feminism, from card-carrying feminists who openly call themselves feminists. And the feminism of the right, the gynocentrism of the right, is traditionalism. It's the appeal to traditional values and complementarianism, etc. Anyone who follows this channel is already aware of this. But anyway, the funny issue I want to address in this video isn't necessarily just this mechanism of the Brazilian government being foolish and importing a bunch of laws without making any changes, without doing any analysis. It's the issue of entryism. For those who followed last year's elections more closely, I think it was what? There was a 50% increase in women in the chamber and all the other positions in the federal government. But here's the thing, if you analyze it, at the time of the election, there was that clash, that difference between women on the left and women on the right. Notice this, as soon as the election was over, as people, as politicians started taking office, you saw a total sisterhood über alles, the sisterhood above all. Basically, you saw the women's caucus, the feminist caucus, all united. There were no more of those little fights. When it came to defending women's issues, they were all together, really united. It's no coincidence that they managed to push through that issue in the pension reform, keeping the minimum retirement age for women about 5 years lower than for men, right? So you really have to pay close attention to this group bias that women have. A woman can be conservative, can be neutral, can be leftist. When it comes to dealing with women's rights, feminist rights, they are completely united, much more united than men. I think men will never be as united as that. So here's the thing, even those who follow Dom's channel know this. Sandro pointed out that just in the first half of Bolsonaro's government, about 20 feminist laws were passed. And I think it was today or yesterday that a link came up there saying that, I think it was, in Amazonas, they were trying to extend the forms of violence covered by the Maria da Penha law to other types of violence, not just domestic or family violence. What does that mean? A co-worker in the workplace? A colleague in an academic environment? An acquaintance? Right, the thing is, it's really like a virus that spreads everywhere. So, who knows how many more laws like this will be passed, right? How many feminist laws will be passed now in the second half of Bolsonaro's term, and who knows, maybe during the rest of his government. I don't even know how to characterize it because, as I said, there's the gynocentrism of the left and there's the gynocentrism of the right. The impression I'm getting is that, in the end, the traditionalists on the right are even more permissive with feminism. If anything, because of this idea of the exceptional woman, the right-wing conservative woman, they end up putting women on even more of a pedestal. And you can see this clearly in the government we're having right now. But finally, what I want to address in this video is basically something that you can already see has happened in the United States. I've already said a few times that the next political divide won't be between left and right, it will be a political divide between men and women. You can see this clearly in the United States with the issue between Republicans and Democrats. And over the last 10 years, more and more women have been elected, massively so. So much so that now the zeitgeist, the left-wing culture in the United States, they want, in every possible way, to elect a female president. Because they couldn't do it, they tried everything to get Hillary elected, but they didn't succeed. But anyway, what happened then with the Democratic Party in the United States? Basically, that's it. It's entryism. Here's the thing. You have a government in question. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. And then you have a bunch of men in political office. It's not just women who propose feminist laws. There are men in political positions who propose feminist laws to promote themselves, to get the attention of the electorate. Dom Sandro talks about this a lot on his channel. But the point here, regardless of whether it's a left-wing or right-wing government, these guys propose and approve these feminist laws. But in their minds, they think this will never be used against them, right? But when you look at the long term, it's actually the opposite. These guys are basically opening the floodgates, not just for the government itself to be taken over, but for their own party to be taken over as well, when they keep creating more and more laws that give women ammunition to destroy men. For example, if you look at it, after the whole Me Too issue, there started to be a bunch of candidates from both the Democratic and Republican parties in the United States whose campaigns were simply destroyed because of a false accusation. For example, the guy would be there announcing his candidacy, then a false accusation would come up and either he was removed from the political race or he simply wouldn't get elected at all. And obviously after the election, they would analyze and realize, no, the accusation was false, but it didn't matter. The guy's image was already destroyed. He lost the election, and then they went ahead and elected female candidates or Democratic candidates. So you have to understand this system of manipulation. And actually, this manipulation happens both outside and inside the sphere of government. On the outside, it can be used to destroy the reputation of men when they're still trying to enter the government, whether through public service exams or through elections, but it can also be used inside the government. And you have to see that in these two matters, women have that group bias of theirs and they are completely united. There's no issue of party, left or right or anything like that. When it comes to uniting the sisters to defend women with a very collectivist mindset, that's what happens. So if you look at it, you can expect that in a few more years, Brazil will reach the same situation as the United States, right? Left-wing parties will mostly want to promote female candidates. Women will increasingly pull the pendulum to the left, and right-wing parties will kind of become a refuge for men. That is, if the right-wing parties here in Brazil wake up to reality, right? If they realize that in fact there really is a gender war going on. It's just that. Like I said, these guys who are in power, they don't realize that with these proposals, with the approval of these laws, they're being used as tools. They think this will never be used against them. They think they're allies of women and feminists, but in reality, they're just useful tools and allies of convenience. These tools, this gate they're opening, this infiltration, is something that could blow up in their faces. It could ruin their careers and it could ruin all the men both inside and outside the government sphere, and those who are lower down in their hierarchy. So this is an issue that needs to be analyzed to look at the number of laws that are being approved. You can see how feminism has already kind of wrecked the academic environment, wrecked the professional environment, and is wrecking relationships. And now there's also this kind of infiltration trying to take over the governmental sphere. I don't know what the right-wing parties are going to do. I don't know if they're going to wake up to reality. But if you look at this issue of institutional takeover, it obviously starts in public institutions. It starts with public servants. It starts with political positions. Then it can move on to the private sector. But in the long run, what you can see is this. If there isn't a reaction, if this isn't somehow contained, what will basically happen in large organizations is this. For someone to advance and be part of these organizations, they'll either have to be a feminist, have to be an ally of feminism. No matter what I just said, that the guy will be an ally out of convenience. He'll keep supporting feminist issues, laws, and rules, even though that could end up hurting him later, or they'll have to be a woman. That's basically it. It's a form of institutional capture. We can already see this happening in the governmental sphere. It's something I noticed a few years ago, which is this. For someone to pursue a political career, as the culture, It's becoming more feminist, it's becoming more anti-male, it's getting worse, it's becoming more toxic. For someone to gain access to the mainstream, maybe not just the political mainstream, but also the cultural mainstream, in the media and journalism, they automatically have to be a woman. Obviously, a woman aligned with feminist issues. Then we have the traditionalism of the right, we have the declared feminism of the left, or it has to be a male ally, it has to be an emasculated man, right? That is to say, there shouldn't be space for men's issues, there shouldn't be space for reforms, for trying to make interactions between the sexes fair, and above all, there shouldn't be space for men who are honestly and openly masculine. It's basically the bonobo protocol, everyone has to be emasculated.